gross. Gotta go wash this off now.
What's up, Hanz family, and welcome to another holiday tutorial. Today's tutorial is going to be Krampus. I keep saying Krampus, so I'm trying to say it right. This is going to be a collab with Alex Faction. You guys know he's an amazing artist, and so make sure to go check out his version of the anti-Santa as well. All product details will be listed down below as usual, and let's get to it. So to start off, I was using a couple reference pictures, just kind of scouring the internet to see what I could find, but as usual I kind of want to make it my own anyways, starting with a clean face and a ginormous cup of coffee. Really happy about this one. We want to start out with the nose, so I'm taking Mehron's liquid latex and some paper towel. I also need to take out my nose ring, which rarely happens, but I don't want to get liquid latex all over my nose ring and get it stuck in my nose. That doesn't sound fun. What we're going to do is lay down liquid latex and then lay down a small ripped piece of paper towel on top of our nose, slowly building it up to create more of a larger kind of angled down nose. What you want to do is make kind of circular pieces of paper towel and then put latex over to cover. Let it dry a little bit in between and start doing smaller pieces of paper towel as you get closer to pretty much make it go into a cone shape. This method will give you a very bumpy texture with this kind of paper towel. So if you're not into that, then don't use this kind of paper towel. But we want this guy to look real ugly, so it was all good for me. Once you have that dry, we're going to start kind of sketching out where we want our mouth to be. To get his base color, I mixed a little bit of white and black with a little bit of brown paint from Mehron makeup, just so that it wasn't exactly gray. And I am just putting this all over my body and face with a flat Morphe brush. I like using cream-based paints on top of latex much more because it sticks to the latex. So I'm using Kryolan's white paint and mixing a little bit of the black body paint in just so it's a little more gray, and adding in more white on top of the nose just to kind of highlight it so it's not super gray. Stick your big ol' new nose on top of your palette and use Makeup Geek's Corrupt, which is just a black eyeshadow. You could use any matte black eyeshadow you prefer. And I want to start drawing out the wrinkles. Use a reference picture for this if you kind of feel more comfortable. I was looking back at one of my reference pictures, which seemed to be a mask. Krampus is kind of a, he's the Christmas demon, so we want him to be all wrinkly and make him look like he's super mad and crazy. So I am just going ham on the wrinkles. Under the eyes, you want to really accentuate the brows, the furrowed brows, that they look really angry. Just go crazy. Go wrinkle crazy, alright? I've been using a Sigma E06 brush for all of this. It's a very small angled brush, and without adding any more pigment, I'm just going to start blending these lines out. You want to blend them in the way that the shadow would move away from the skin. For instance, the lines pulling up from our face, the shadow would be underneath the lines because our skin would be pulling upward, if that makes sense. So pretty much you want to blend the black underneath where the skin would be pulled. This is another time where it's good to use a reference picture and to really just kind of learn how skin moves and where the light and shadow would hit the wrinkles naturally. I really want to darken quite a bit under these kind of false cheekbones that I made, so I'm really adding a lot of black shadow there. Pretty much the darker you go on a shadow would basically be the deeper the wrinkle is. He has some big old nostrils too, so I definitely darkened up my nostrils a little bit more because they aren't quite as big. And the skin right between the kind of furrowed brows would be dark in itself, so make sure to put a lot of shadow there. Some of these wrinkles wouldn't realistically really exist on a normal human face, so this is great to kind of explore and experiment with how you think this face would actually move. Add a lot of black towards the inner socket of the eye, just because our brow would be casting a really large shadow onto that. And then just continue to darken up your other wrinkles. I now switched to some black body paint just to really add to these wrinkles, mainly because sometimes eyeshadow just doesn't cut it, and the black body paint can really make the look very defined. So adding the black body paint will just really help to define the wrinkles. And, I also did want him to look very dark. I was doing the wrinkles and they were a little too light. So you can see that adding black shadow on top of that body paint already makes him much darker and gives him, or her I guess, I don't know, a much creepier feel. I did the exact same thing on the chest, pretty much just accentuating my collarbones and kind of adding a few other little lines here and there. He, doesn't have the greatest skin on top, so I don't think he'd have the greatest skin on bottom, too, if you know what I mean. This is at the point where I realized I looked like a bird. I had a little bit of red eyeshadow just to kind of make your eyes look a little more irritated, and this was the point of the look where I had a moment where I was like, okay, am I going to be able to salvage this? So if you ever get to that point in your looks, which most artists do, just keep going. Just keep going for it, and, it usually turns out okay. The shadows of the wrinkles are super important, and the highlights are just as important as well. So using the white cream paint from Kryolan, I'm going to start pretty much going on top of the skin between the wrinkles that shows and accentuating that. If you ever do looks, most of the time these white highlights really bring the entire thing together, because you can't have a shadow without a highlight nearby, right? Keep the white towards the top of the lines because our light source is usually from the top of us. That's another tip I can give you guys, is always kind of choose where you want your light source to be from. Usually mine is from the top, it's the easiest to teach that way, but maybe you kind of have a light from the side and you want one side of you to be darker, you know what I mean? Always pick a light source. I did decide to add a few little brown dots and some more red shadow for a little bit of added texture. Since he is a creepy demon, I did want to go with kind of some jagged yellow teeth for the mouth. I'm using a mixture of white and Dijon paint from Mehron. Dijon. Just to get this kind of worn down yellow effect. He wouldn't have pearly whites from, snacking on children or whatever the fuck he does with his life every day. Make sure to draw the teeth that go over your lips shorter, just so that that line of your lips can be concealed later. I always think that mouths with teeth look much better when the lip line is kind of concealed as much as possible. And then I'm going in between the teeth towards the center with a little bit of Beachberry from Mehron, but I decided to go in with Port, which is a dark kind of wine color body paint from Mehron. The mouth curves around our face, so the outsides would be darker, so I'm cleaning up the back teeth and filling in the gaps with black paint. For the gums, I did want to fill them in with coral paint from Mehron, and then you want to darken underneath the skin. This is with a little bit of that Love Plus from Sugar Pill, which is a red eyeshadow, and I'm darkening it under the skin because the skin would cast a shadow onto the gums. The gums also, if you look at gums, they have kind of this bump where the root of the tooth goes in, so you want to create that with shadow too. Do this on top and bottom, and then using the second love of my life, Cherry Cola from Makeup Geek, I want to just darken this up even more. These eyeshadows are great for body painting. You guys know I love them because they're super, super pigmented. Like, holy shit. Focus the Cherry Cola more towards underneath the skin, and then go in with a little bit of black, which I'm using Corrupt from Makeup Geek again, and going right up against the skin and darkening between the teeth a little bit. To give the teeth an even more realistic feel, I want to go right up against the top of them, kind of the root, with a little bit of Mocha eyeshadow from Makeup Geek. Blending that into the yellow, and then taking a little bit of black and just taking that right up against the root of the tooth. The tips of the teeth, just the tips though, have a little bit of highlight, so I'm using the cream white paint just to add a tiny bit of color on the tips and a little bit on the curves of the gums. Darken up the look even more if you need to. I definitely wanted to darken up more around the back of my eyebrows and especially underneath these little cheekbones and under my jawline. Let's be honest. For these cuts that I did put on his skin, I took Sugar Pill's Love Plus red eyeshadow again, and I did this with a really large fluffy brush just to kind of put it in a few places that I wanted it. You want the skin to look kind of irritated from where these cuts would be, and then taking Ben Nye's Scab Blood, I took a small little brush and I just put this right on top of the red that I had put down earlier. Scabs are kind of messy, they aren't perfectly straight, so build them up a little bit. Some parts make a little chunkier than the others, you know. This Mehron Stage Blood is syrupy, so it stays in place wherever you put it, so I put a little bit dripping down my little mouth. And then I just added a few more little fine lines and dots for some finishing details. And that, you guys, is the final look. I made these horns out of tin foil and yarn wrapped around them. I used the Ellimacs tutorial to make the horns, so check them out, and make sure to check out Alex and his video. If you liked this video, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you guys later.